Hello, this is Amira McHugh, and welcome to the Let's Talk About Money Micro Summit. Money can be a challenging topic for us to discuss, but as it is still the leading cause of chronic stress and relationship breakdowns, it is something that's really important for us to talk about and to find ways to improve our experience with it. To do this, I've assembled a panel of experts to help us understand how we can overcome our issues with finances that may include self-sabotage and overspending so that we can achieve our financial goals. So I invited Mike Irving to join us today. He is a performance coach who's taught thousands of people how to be successful in sales and now helps people clarify their thinking and their ability to create the reality they want. Mike loves business and investing, and he feels his place is to help people with the mindset of sovereignty. So, welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Amira. Great to be here. I'm happy to help. How are you today?
I'm fabulous, thank you.
Awesome.
Can I ask you to clarify what does it mean when you say to help people with the mindset of sovereignty?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's actually a really important point to start with. So for me, sovereignty is, we could call it extreme ownership. Sovereignty is, for me, the principle that you are the queen or the king that sits on the throne in your world, and you create your own reality. And so sovereignty is, I suppose, a mindset approach to extreme ownership of everything that exists in your world, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You create all of it. And if you take that approach, then it becomes far easier to inspect when there's something that's not exactly the way you would like it to be. The real source of the problem that sits there is going to be something about you or the way you think, your attitude, your ability to have something, your decision-making processes. There's something about you that's creating the reality you have. So I hope that gives a simple enough explanation of sovereignty. Does that
It
work?
does, but I think, and I'll ask you this later because I
Mm,
want to find out how you got into this journey.
mm.
But I was going to ask you later that that is very different concept from what most people think of as stuff is happening to me from the outside. So if we
Yes.
could talk about that a little bit later,
Yeah.
if you could just tell us, how did you end up doing this? You know,
Sure.
what led you to want to work with people around this idea?
My own failings is the really brief, short answer to that question. Um, I had been running a business for 10 years. I'd literally taught thousands of people how to sell, and I was teaching them to go door to door and work on commission. And so most people will feel that that's one of the most difficult terrains to operate in terms of sales. So I did that for 10 years and I had a lot of success. I helped a lot of other people achieve things that they didn't necessarily think they could. Um, but in 2006, I ended up in a place where I wasn't very happy and I didn't know why. And so for me, there was a journey to go on in order to inspect the areas of my life where I was not approaching that from a sovereignty point of view. There were parts of my life where I was blaming and I was upset and pissed off and frustrated and didn't think it was fair and it wasn't my fault. And that was really causing problems for me. So in 2006, I met a group of people who helped me to change my life. And it had that much of an effect that I decided that I really wanted to incorporate that into the way that I was serving others. So
Mm.
I left the direct sales industry and I wanted to work more with business owners generally. And since 2007, that's what I've been doing.
But it would seem, I guess, if we're looking at that outside in, that would other people have thought that you were doing really well?
Yeah, they did. From the outside looking in, I had an awesome life. I had, houses and cars and motorbikes and, my life looked brilliant, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't enjoying myself. And I was, I could blame that on uh, the roller coaster ride of business, and therefore the roller coaster of money and finances and all the rest. But at the end of the day, really, I was creating the problem. I'd always read lots of books that tell me that you create your own reality. And I really wanted to believe that, but I didn't know how I was doing it. None of those books could tell me, well, if you have this reality, that means that you're doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And if you want to create this reality over here instead, then stop doing these 3 things and start doing these 5 things instead. And over time and distance, you'll get there. So I really wanted to know the answer to that question, which is, well, how do you create your own reality? And money is a really big part of that. Money is the #1 cause of divorce.
Yes.
We see lots of people who win the lottery and within 12 months are bankrupt for the amount that they won. There's a lot of factors that go into that.
So what are those factors? So say somebody did attract that money to them, but then it's gone. Like, what's going on for them? Like, how does this happen?
Great question. And I think there's not a one simple answer to it. I'll do my best to give a simple answer, but one of the phenomenon that I've observed over the last, let's say, since 2006, so 14 years as of the time of this recording, one of the phenomenons I've observed is that there is this, it's an invisible phenomenon that affects us in terms of our thinking, our behavior, and our reactions in life. And it's resistance. I call it quantum resistance, just to attempt to give some words to describe the phenomenon. Now, what I've seen over the last 14 years is that the subject that has, in many ways, the most resistance on it is the subject of money. And then a number of subjects that are attached to that. So as an example, on the subject of money, one of the things that exists next to that subject is something that we could call havingness, or your ability to have. So people that have an amount of money, well, they have an ability to have that amount of money. And that ability is learned, and it is also achieved through the removal of resistance and self-limiting beliefs, and something that I call postulates. The ability to have is not something that you're just born with for most people. So if you notice, most people will have an amount of money that is kind of the upper limit of what they're able to have. And then they have an amount of money that is the lower limit of what they're able to have. But those limits are self-imposed.
So it's not the outside inflicting it on you.
No, not at all. If it was, then everybody would be in the same boat, right? So something is only true if it is always true. If it's not always true, then it's a self-created truth. And so for someone to lift the ceiling on that amount of money that they're able to have, for example, that requires work. If they do that work, then that ceiling will lift. And if they don't, then they won't. And a lot of what creates that ceiling is resistance that we have. It's an emotional, we could even say energetic or spiritual thing that actually impacts their ability to have a certain amount of money. Now, if they all of a sudden have more than that amount, it's like the pressure valve wants to release. They don't know how to have it. They don't know what to do with it. So all of a sudden they start doing really silly things. They start making decisions that don't make a lot of sense. Like somebody wins the lotto and all of a sudden they start paying off the mortgages of their friends' houses just because, you're my mate. Well, that seems really nice and kind, but you're actually doing a disservice to your friend, and you're doing a disservice to yourself because you're not respecting the money that you have.
That's a really different way to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's more not so much that this outside influence is happening to us, but we have this idea, and would you say it's like something we're not even conscious of, this idea that we can only have so much, and then we will if it goes beyond that, we will do whatever it takes to get back to what we feel comfortable with.
Yes. So yes on all fronts. So it's not something we're conscious of or aware of. In fact, if you talk to most people and you kind of point that out, most people will go, "Nah, you're crazy. I'd love to have $100 million." Well, it's really easy to talk about what we would do when we're put into a certain situation, right? But what I've seen is that you never really know how you're going to behave in a given situation until you're actually in that situation, because emotion takes over. And we all have our own survival mechanisms that we've created in order to survive our experience of life in this body on this planet at this time.
Yeah.
And those survival mechanisms kick in when they are activated by circumstances in our environment. So we never really know how we're going to behave until we're in the moment.
Okay, so how then would we go about, so if we're not conscious of this, how would we go about starting to transform it? I mean, where would we even start?
It's a great question. And the answer is not the real answer to that question. We don't have enough time for in this interview on this audio today, right? So I'll do my best to give a brief explanation. The brief explanation would be to make sure that you find somebody who is well versed in this idea of resistance and how to handle it. We do that. I'm building a team of people who help others with that. So that's a service that we do provide. If you can find somebody who can help you with that, that's 90% of the battle, because I've definitely seen it to be true that we're not able to remove this resistance on our own, because the fact that the resistance is there means that we look everywhere else other than where the resistance is in order to attempt to solve the problem, because that's
Mm-hmm.
actually part of the survival mechanism. When you find somebody who's able to help you with that, it's about making sure that there's a relationship of trust where you give them permission to put your attention on where the resistance sits and then guide you to inspect it and therefore remove it. So that's the basic, simple explanation I can give you. I know that that's not a really simple explanation, and it probably forms more questions than what it answers. But yeah, there's a teamwork that's involved in removing resistance, and it's not something that we can do easily on our own at all. I still work with my research team every week right now to make sure that there's no resistance that pops up for me as I go through the process.
It's kind of like just not being able to see, what's facing away from you because you're already in it.
Yeah, you can't see the woods through the trees through the forest, or the forest
Mm.
through the trees, and both.
And both.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating thing. I've had moments where I've found little bits of resistance where I've gone, wow, I never would have guessed in a million years that that thought was there, or that that emotion was there. So teamwork is the answer.
Well, so, okay, so it is obviously we need someone to help us with this. That would be a good place to start. But
Mm.
how would we know if we're even being resistant, like so that we would even seek that out?
Yeah, self-awareness, right? Self-awareness is one of the most powerful tools that we have, but self-awareness is also restricted and suppressed because of resistance. So that's a great question. I I think that a big part of sovereignty as an approach and mindset is to be an observer of yourself in every way. So observe your emotional reactions and responses when they occur, because they do, right? So be an observer of those so that you can kind of flag any time that you react to something emotionally. That's an indicator that there is resistance there. If someone else
Okay.
is if someone else is able to press your button, Most people blame the other person for pressing their button, but they're missing the point. The point is the button is within you. so,
It's not
so
like an outer button that somebody's got for you.
somebody else does not have the power to create emotions for you. What they have the power to do is press pre-existing buttons that exist within you, right? But that means it's your button. That means that there is resistance there. So by being an observer of yourself and maintaining that position and that approach, you'll be able to make a list of, yeah, all right, well, I've reacted to this, and this in the last 24 hours. Wow. All right, there might be some buttons there for me to address.
Yep.
Now, the challenge with that is that it's a little bit confronting, and it's uncomfortable to look at that and go, oh, geez, yeah, okay, I have buttons of resistance that other people are therefore able to use to manipulate and control me.
Mm. And we
Now,
like to think that we're in control of ourselves, don't we?
we like to think so, and my experience is that the vast majority of people are not. Or at least there are times when they are not.
Mm.
And that is your indicator that there is resistance there. Any emotional reaction, anything that I like to use an analogy. I talk about it this way. Life is like a pinball machine. And in this pinball machine, you are either being the ball that is in the game, and therefore, as the ball, you're getting whacked by these fingers that are sending you all over the game, and you're therefore at effect of what is happening. Your other alternative is to choose to be the person standing in front of the game, pressing the buttons, so that you're using your intention to move the ball roughly where you'd like it to go.
Yeah.
The more that you take that position, the more that you are being cause over what happens in the game. The
So,
key is to recognize that it's your choice which of those two positions you're taking.
so you'd even, so if I'm understanding you correctly, taking a step back and looking in, it gives you a little bit more control over things.
Yes, being an observer, just by observing something, you create change in that thing.
Mm.
Whether that's a behavior or an emotional response within yourself, or if you're observing others. So there's a lot of science that's showing that to be true at a number of different levels, right? Water, what was his name? Dr.
Emoto.
That's right. So when you observe water, you change the structure of the water.
Yes.
The same thing happens in human behavior. So being an observer of yourself in terms of your spending habits, the way that you look at money, the way you feel about money, it will give you insights into where resistance sits.
So if you're the type of, so in terms of what we're talking about is being able to achieve our financial goals,
Mhm.
would an indicator of resistance be that you're just not able to reach those goals, or every time you kind of get near there, something happens? Would that be an indicator of resistance?
Well, is it an indicator to you? If you see that happening, what does that indicate to you?
Well, to me, it says something's not going right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And if there's something not going right, if it's true that you create your own reality, then what does that mean about the real source of the problem?
Then it would have to come down to me.
Correct. And if that's the case, the real source of the problem is going to be resistance that exists for you. And that applies to every person. That's not just me. It's not just you. And one of the challenges in this is that it's inherently challenging or difficult to confront that you have resistance.
Mm. So what would be your, because you obviously work with people around this space, what would you do with people who are wanting to develop that ability to get what they want?
So I would work with them in the way that they want to be worked with, and at the level that they want to be worked with. So everybody is somewhere on a gradient of development and learning and self-awareness, etc. And so what we aim to do is work with a person based on where they're at and support them to move up that gradient at a rate that works for them. So not everybody's the same. Some people are, sort of all in, right? I want to do everything as quick as possible. Like, I'm ready for it. Let's go. And other people want to gradually just progress, and that's totally okay. I'm a person who's, let's jump into the deep end of the swimming pool and hope like hell I can swim. But not everybody's like me, right? So that was my approach, and I'm glad that I did that. But attempting to get everybody to do that just doesn't work. So we like to take the first step we like to take is we want to, as much as possible, identify, well, where does this person have resistance?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be talking about, money or growing their business, or, when it comes to relationships, they're wanting to find the man or the woman of their dreams, or they're wanting to work on improving their marriage. So if I say you can't get to where you're going to if you don't first know where you're starting from.
So
So
looking at that, like what's going on for you right now,
yeah,
as well as knowing where you want to go.
yeah, that's right. And when it comes to find out where someone's starting from, at the end of the day, anybody can form an opinion, including the person, right? Everybody will have their own opinions about where their blocks and resistances are. My experience is that most of the time, my opinion of where my block is probably not where my block is. Right? That's usually the case. So we have other ways and systems that we use. We've got a series of diagnostic tools that we utilize that ensures that we're not working with anyone's opinion, including my opinion. We get to work with data and then support the person to make decisions about what things they want to change. And then if they want our help, we can put together something that will help them to do that.
I think that sounds a little bit different than what most sort of things would do, because you're talking about there not being any bias from really anybody.
Yeah. I don't understand how there's a lot of people that call themselves coaches and that deliver coaching services. But my experience is that a lot of them assume to know what the challenge is that the person that they're working with has. And my experience is a lot of people spend money on things and they don't get the result that they want from it. I know people that have spent $40,000 on programs to support them to grow their businesses, and they've gone and done 12 months or even longer with an organization, and they've not gotten what they wanted out of it. And they've come to me and invested in a program with me, and they're still working with me. So I can, kind of assume that means they've gotten what they wanted.
Yes.
And I think that happens all too often. We do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. And one of the ways we do that is this series of diagnostic tools. That means we take away opinion. We work with data, and we work with data that's come from over 40 years worth of research and development of these tools.
Well, it sounds like a fabulous idea. So I believe that you actually have an offer for people if they're
Yeah,
interested in the work that you do.
100%. And I say we could call it an offer. Really, it's an invite. If you
An
would like
invite.
to, if you would like to have an in-depth, deep dive discussion to see if we can uncover more about what's happening for you, I call it a discovery session, and that's just a name we've given it. We're going to spend an hour on a call, and we're more than happy to gift that to listeners.
Oh, sorry, Mike, we actually lost your sound.
Oh, how about now?
Oh, there you are. You're back.
Oh,
It's like,
excellent.
oh, we got to
Apologies.
the discovery session.
Yeah, apologies for that. I don't know what happened there. So yeah, we call it a discovery session. We're more than happy to, if anybody would like to have a deep dive to inspect what might be happening for them, and also how we might be able to help. We would be more than happy to do that. There'll be, I believe, a link that gets shared with this.
Yes, we'll put that below the video, so they'll be able to just click on that, and then I believe, will it go to your calendar?
It will, yep. It will create an appointment on my calendar. It will give visibility to when appointments are available, and you'll be able to book a time that works for you, and obviously one that will work for me as well. So 100%.
That helps.
Indeed, it does. You know, a lot of people might actually look at that and think, oh, well, this is just going to be a sales call. Look, my view on this is we're here to help. And if people engage with us, they engage with us because they choose to. We do not in any way, shape, or form use any degree of force or coercion or manipulation in terms of helping somebody decide to work with us. They work with us because they choose to. So we're here to provide a service, and we'd love to talk with you if we can help.
And I can confirm that is true. So there
Cool.
is no sales pressure at the end. If you would like to just have a chat about maybe, you know, if maybe even this concept hadn't occurred to you, that you were resisting your own wealth and progress, then definitely have a chat with Mike and see what you can uncover.
Absolutely. We'd be more than happy to. So this is, we love doing what we do, and we deliver this service because of how much of an impact it's had on me personally, and my team will say the same. And that's our big driver really, is to help more people understand how this all comes together.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being with us. I really hope that um, the people who are watching got some really great information out of that, and maybe can see that there might be something they can do to shift that um, that wanting to achieve your goals, but just not getting there.
Yep.
Um, well, thank you again.
My
So
pleasure.
just
I hope
to
that
be
this has been
sure.
valuable for everybody.
Oh, thank you. Just to be sure to check your inbox tomorrow for our next guest. That's somebody who's going to take us through their experience of several life-altering events, like very significant ones, and yet they've been able to have the courage to get them up and continue. So stay tuned for that one.
Awesome. Sounds exciting.
Once again, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.